1920. Most women will agree August 23rd, the day when Tennessee legislature finally enacted a federal suffrage amendment, is a day to begin with, not a day to end with. Men are saying perhaps, thank God, this everlasting women's fight's over. But women, if I know them, are saying, now, at last, we can begin. In fighting for the right to vote, most women have tried to either non-committal or thoroughly respectable on every other subject. Now they can say that what they are really after, and what they are after, in common with all the rest of the struggling world, is freedom. Freedom is a large word. What then is the matter with women? What is the problem of women's freedom? It seems to me to be this: how to arrange the world so that women can be human beings, with the chance to exercise the infinitely varied gifts in indefinitely varied ways, instead of being destined by the accident of sex to one field of activity, housework and child raising. And second, if and when they choose housework and child raising, to have that occupation recognized by the world as work, requiring definite economic reward and not merely entitling the performer to be dependent on some man. This is not the whole feminism, of course, but is enough to begin with. Oh, don't begin with economics, my friend often protests. Woman does not live by bread alone. What she needs first of all is a free soul. And I can agree that women will never be great until they achieve a certain emotional freedom, a strong, healthy egotism, and some unpersonal forces of joy. That in this inner sense, we cannot make women free by changing her economic status. What we can do, however, is to create conditions of outward freedom in which free women's soul can be born and grow. It is these outward conditions with which an organized feminist movement must concern itself. Freedom of choice and occupation and individual economic independence for women. How shall we approach this next feminist objective? First, by breaking down all the remaining barriers, actually as well as legal, which make it difficult for women to enter or succeed in the various professions, to go into and get on in business, to learn trades and practice them, to join trade unions. Chief among these remaining barriers is inequality in pay. Here the ground is already broken. This is the easiest part of our program. Second, we must institute a revolution in early training and education of both boys and girls. It must be womanly as well as manly to earn your own living, to stand on your own feet. And it must be manly as well as womanly to know how to cook and sew and clean and take care of yourself in the ordinary exigencies of life. I need not add the second part of this revolution will be more passionately resisted than the first. Men will not give up their privilege of helplessness without a struggle. The average man has carefully cultivated ignorance about household matters, from what to do with crumbs to the grocer's telephone number, a sort of cheerful inefficiency which protects him better than having a reputation for having a violent temper. It was his mother's fault in the beginning, but even as a boy he was quick to see how the general reputation for being no good around the house would serve him throughout life, and half-consciously began to cultivate that helplessness until today it is the despair of feminist wives. Cooperative schemes and electrical devices will simplify the business of homemaking, but they will not get rid of it entirely. As far as we can see ahead, people will always want homes, and happy homes cannot be without a certain amount of rather monotonous work and responsibility. How can we change the nature of man so that he will honorably share that work and responsibility, and thus making homemaking enterprise a song instead of a burden? Mostly assuredly, not by laws, nor revolutionary decrees. Perhaps we must cultivate or stimulate a little of that highly prized helplessness ourselves, but fundamentally, it is a problem of education, of early training. We must bring up feminist sons. Sons, daughters, they are born of women. How can women be free to choose their occupation, at all times cherishing their economic independence, unless they stop having children? This is a further question for feminism. If the feminist program goes to pieces on the arrival of the first baby, it is false and useless. For 99 out of 100 women want children, and 75 out of every 100 want to take care of their own children, or at any rate, so supposedly superintended their care to make any other full-time occupation impossible for at least 10 or 15 years. Is there such a thing, then, as freedom of choice in the occupation for women? And it's not the family, the inevitable economic unit, and the women's individual economic independence, at least during the period, out of the question? The feminist must have an answer to these questions, and she has. The immediate feminist program must include voluntary motherhood. Freedom of any kind for women is hardly worth considering unless it is assumed that they will know how to control the size of their families. Birth control is just an elementary and essential in our propaganda as equal pay. Women are to have children when they want them. That's the first thing. That ensures some freedom of occupational choice. Those who do not wish to be mothers will not have the undesired occupation thrust upon them by accident, and those who do wish to be mothers may choose in a general way how many years of their lives they will devote to occupation of child raising. But is there any way of ensuring a woman's economic independence while child raising is her chosen occupation, or must she sink to that dependent state from which, as we all know, it is so hard to rise again? That brings us fourth feature of our program, motherhood endowment. It seems that the only way we can keep mothers free, at least in a capitalist society, is by the establishment of the principle that the occupation of raising children is peculiar and directly a service to society, and that the mother upon whom the necessity and privilege of performing this service naturally falls is entitled to an adequate economic reward from the political government. It is idle to talk of real economic independence for women unless the principle is accepted. But with a generous endowment of motherhood provided by legislation, with all laws against voluntary motherhood and education and its methods repealed, with the feminist ideal of education accepted in the home and school, and with all special barriers removed from in every field of human activity, there is no reason why women should not become almost a human thing.